What is that? Is that like a roided up frog? About 15 years ago, I was still a kid and someone got me one of these cards for 1,600 Microsoft points. 1,600 Microsoft points was really only $20, but as a freeloading child with no job, that was like winning the lottery, and back then you could do a ton with only $20. Halo 3 map packs, Mass Effect DLC, terrible indie games that no one remembers, gamer picks, themes, music, avatar customizations, and of course, Xbox Live Arcade games. After browsing through the arcade, there was one game that caught my eye, Castle Crashers. If you've never played Castle Crashers, it's a 2D side-scroller released in 2008 where you play as a knight and travel from level to level trying to rescue 4 kidnapped princesses. You start off in your home castle and you travel between tons of crazy locations fighting new enemy types in basically every level. It was a perfect game for 8-year-old Frog. To put a bow on what I was saying about Microsoft points, this game was $1,200, which comes out to $15. Castle Crashers, a fun, well-crafted game with hours and hours of replay value, was only $15. Now, almost 15 years later, I recently replayed it, and yeah, it still holds up. I would go as far as to say that it's a game that truly is timeless, and it starts with Castle Crashers' art style. Everything is hand-drawn. The characters look adorable, they have heads twice the size of the rest of their body, not to mention the animal orbs, and this is juxtaposed brilliantly by the cartoonish violence of decapitating enemies or seeing severed limbs on the ground. This game is really charming. Obviously, there's the dumb jokes and the Thieves' Forest that everyone who's played this game before knows what I'm referring to, but there's a lot more dry humor than I ever picked up on as a kid. The backgrounds and environments you fight in are so varied and all have a unique feel. In the opening couple of levels, you see a massive battle happening behind you, whereas in a level like Lava World, you see, well, a lava world with flowing lava and statues of vampire demons. For a 2D side-scroller, Castle Crashers is incredibly interesting visually and actually pretty immersive. And because of this game's art style and it being hand-drawn, it looks just as good now as it did 15 years ago. I liken it to old Disney movies. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is almost 90 years old, yet it still looks great and always will. There are games that I love like Halo CE or KOTOR where a kid now would probably look at them and instantly get turned off by them looking old. I don't condone lying to children, but Castle Crashers is a game where you could tell a kid it came out yesterday and they definitely believe you. But a game can look amazing and still suck, just look at Star Wars Battlefront 2015. So what about the rest of Castle Crashers? Well, the countless hours I put into this game and times I beaten it weren't just because I thought it looked pretty. It's interesting because on the surface it seems like most of the combat in this game is just mashing the Y button until you win, but they do a pretty good job of changing it up and keeping it fresh. For one, you have other attacks than just melee. You can shoot arrows, use magic, eat a protein sandwich, or even still just melee but use one of the mini button combos this game has. And like I said, Castle Crashers is constantly throwing you into new environments and fighting new enemies. The best portions of this game, similar to Cuphead, are the boss fights. Everything I've said about the game's charm, humor, gameplay, art direction, whatever, is at its best during the boss fights that happen throughout the course of the game. Whether it's a giant barbarian, a catfish, or a giant thing of corn, all of these are a good change of pace from the regular gameplay, and combat loop provide a good challenge, and they really show off the game developers' creativity. However, even with all that said, if this game was just, hey, you're a knight, go rescue the princesses, and left it at that, I wouldn't hold it in that high of regard. There's still a lot more going on here. When first starting, you have the option of picking one of 4 starter knights, red, green, blue, and orange. If you're playing on remastered like I was, you have a couple more as well. And each of these knights are their own separate character that play differently and you progress and develop separately. The orange knight plays differently than the blue, red, or green knight. The Green Knight is awful though, don't choose him. As you play the game, you'll collect gold to use at stores located at various points on the map for power-ups and collectibles. With each character, you gain experience from fighting enemies and level up and get points that you can use in 4 different categories: strength, defense, magic, and agility. So there's plenty of reason to replay the game as different knights, try to level them up, and beat the game as each of them. But it doesn't just end there. Throughout Castle Crashers, you fight a ton of different enemies and pretty much all of them are unlockable for you to play as. There are 31 playable characters in total. You unlock new characters for beating certain levels for the first time, or doing optional levels like arenas, or for beating the game with certain characters. So for example, for this video, I beat the game as the Orange Knight, and for that I unlocked the Scary Demon Monster Man. There's also more than just playable characters to unlock. There are also pets, some of which you can find hidden throughout the game, some you can buy at different stores. Some of these do basic stuff like the elephant increases your strength stat, but there's also cool and unique stuff. The owl finds hidden food which restores health and brings it to you. The giraffe makes you level up faster. The install ball fires photon lasers at enemies. There are 29 different pets total. There are also collectible weapons that all look unique and have different stats. Want to cut people's heads off with a carrot? In this game you can. Most of these, again, are hidden throughout the game in different levels, while others are available for purchase, and some you can get through unlocking different characters because you'll get their starter weapon. These weapons all have level requirements though, so you can't just immediately start a new level 1 one character and obliterate everything with a high value sword. There are 84 weapons in total. Trying to unlock every character, find every pet, and find every weapon was so much fun as a kid. Let me put this into context for you too. As a kid, I was using websites like YouTube, but playing Castle Crashers, I wasn't looking up guides or anything because I don't think 8-year-old Frog knew they were a thing. I would manually explore the different levels, trying everything I could to find hidden weapons and pets. My friends and I would talk about how to get things, and some of what they told me was completely true and awesome, while other things were complete nonsense. Like for example, there's this one pet you can unlock that increases your magic. To get him, you have to go to the industrial castle, kill this big guy, take the cardinal from him, then go to the level Full Moon with the cardinal, get like halfway through it, let the cardinal grab a key sword, then go back to the pet house and hit this lock with the key, and then you get him. Do you know how long it took us to figure all that out? It sucked, but it was also awesome. We did weird stuff, like one time we just ran around to every store on the map and compared prices so we knew for each individual item which store was the cheapest because their prices do vary. Not to sound like a grandpa, but those were the good old days. Speaking of friends, Castle Crashers is a fantastic party game. Some of the best times I had in Castle Crashers were playing it with 3 other guys trying to beat it on insane mode or playing couch co-op with a buddy. Or like I said, it's a really simple game so you don't even need a friend who's good at video games to play it with you. Your grandma would probably love Castle Crashers. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you shouldn't play it solo because it's still a lot of fun, but you should definitely at least try playing it with multiple people. One thing I can't not mention for Castle Crashers is the soundtrack. It's way better than a soundtrack for a $15 Xbox Live Arcade game has any right to be. I think of a different game like Kingdom for Keflings that literally has like 2 songs that play in a loop the entire game, and then there's Castle Crashers that has a legitimately great and memorable soundtrack. Not just by arcade game standards, but on its own merit. Looking at the wiki, there are several different people credited, so I don't know if it was a Newgrounds community thing or what, but hats off to everyone who contributed. I mentioned this game was $15 when it came out. It's still $15. If you haven't played it, I cannot emphasize enough how worth it is for only 15 bucks. And I'll just say to be clear, this video is not sponsored or anything. I'm not a corporate frog. Yet. But if you've never played it and want something new to try, get Castle Crashers. If you don't like it, it was only 15 bucks, and if you do like it, it's a game you can put hours and hours into. Way more than you'd probably expect from a side-scroller beat-em-up game. I'll do more videos like this from time to time just talking about random games I like that aren't related to Halo, but that's it for this one, and I'll catch y'all next time.